Welcome back. This is Media Watch, and welcome back to James Creedon, looking fresh and rested. And
a week off does everyone a bit of good.
Pretty quickly once we get going to this one. We're starting with a controversial new iPhone application in France. Controversial because?
Because it's called Jew or Not Jew. And the whole idea of this application is that it identifies Jewish people who are famous, not famous. You know, if you have a Jewish mother, it's all catalogued in this application for the iPhone.
Care about that?
Well, the guy behind creating it is himself Jewish. And he did this, he says, for Jewish pride reasons. So you can identify people who've done well as Jews, often people who came from immigrant families. But, you know, it has different aspects to it, such as popular Jews, random Jews, statistics, etc., etc., etc. So obviously, it's straight away controversial by its very nature.
Is this any different from, say, there's a website with, you know, celebrity fans of Everton Football Club? I'm on that because I'm on the telly and I support Everton Football Club. Is it any different?
Well, in France, it is. I think in another country, in another culture, this mightn't be so controversial, especially given the fact that the guy who created it is himself a guy called Johan Levy. He's a British guy and he's Jewish, living in Marseille. And he did it, he would seem to say, for the right reasons. But of course, by its very nature, it's controversial. And if you look at this particular left-leaning website, Le Nouvel Observateur, it's a well-known weekly magazine here, Jew or Not Jew, the new iPhone application, which is causing a scandal. And look at the cartoon that they've put up there, and they're calling it the Heil phone instead of the iPhone application. So they're basically saying that this has nasty evocations, or that it evokes memories of World War II.
I mean, is that more offensive than the actual iPhone application?
Well, I suppose it shows a certain mentality in France where any reference at all to race, colour or creed is instantly controversial. And indeed, SOS Racism, you can see it here, it's a French anti-racism and anti-Semitic group as well. They have said that they're going to take Apple to court over this if they don't withdraw the application immediately. A lot of articles online are linking to this article in the French Penal Code, which makes it illegal, without the consent of the concerned party, to mention on any kind of computer material somebody's race, colour, or creed.
As well, James, is that any mention of religion in public life is completely squashed by law. Right. You're not allowed to do that, and that's the whole rap about wearing, you know, sort of the full face Islamic veil in public.
Absolutely.
That was deemed to be a religious expression in public, which isn't allowed.
They have much more extensive secularism laws in France than elsewhere. You can't even gather statistics on somebody's creed.
Is that with all the publicity, this guy's getting a lot of possibilities of selling his app, isn't he?
Well, in fact, just as you say that, he appeared on this particular show this evening. It's a show on the French radio station Europe 1. They click et they clack, and he spoke extensively about this. He was grilled by the presenters about all of this.
They click et they clack.
They click et they clack, and he said this was done for pride reasons. Now, actually, we have a soundbite from a guy who is the president of an anti-racism group in France. We'll take a listen to what he said about this, because he doesn't seem to agree with Mr. Levy. All right, we apparently don't have that soundbite, but I can tell you
what he said.
I can tell you what he said. He said that this is that new technologies cataloguing people's religious faiths is more than simply worrying. It is extremely worrying. So this is a guy who works for an anti-racism organisation. So I suppose really what you have to remember is the historical context in France. And Rue 89 here are talking about this. Un fichier des Juifs. Now that is a reference to Vichy France, when they gathered statistics on Jews. They were documented, just like in Germany, and they had to wear the yellow star. They were forbidden from civil service jobs.
That's it on a point. There's a lot of guilt here in France about the way Jews were treated during the war. I mean, you've got to think about, there used to be the Velodrome nearby Eiffel Tower. They were 40,000 were pushed to death and
they were
deported,
gathered up and moved off to concentration camps.
The things that happened here were awful, you know.
Right, and I think perhaps in Australia, in the US and other New World countries where this didn't happen, it mightn't have the same, I suppose, stigma. Now, what's worth pointing out also in France is just earlier this year, there was a similar controversy where not just Apple, but Google was under fire. And I think we have it here, where basically what they do is if you type in the name of a politician such as François Hollande, who just for the sake of fact is not actually Jewish, it shows what the most popular searches are. And here you can see François Hollande Juif, François Hollande Jew. And so they got an awful lot of criticism in the press earlier this year. You can see lepost.fr, a website saying, when Google changes into is he Jewish.fr.
But that's just a reflection of what people are looking for, though, isn't it?
Exactly, and that's what Google said, and they got out of that controversy with unscathed, I suppose. But it shows how sensitive this question is in France.
James, thank you very much indeed. James Creedon with Media Watch.